Welcome to Highfalutin Low Carb, the almost weekly web series where we find, test, and sometimes create the best low carb recipes this crazy internet has to offer. Today, we're going to be working on another original recipe, but this time it is particularly special. But more on that in a moment. I first want to offer a huge thank you to Zevia Natural Sodas for partnering with me to bring you this week's video. Zevia Natural Sodas are 0 calorie, 0 carb, 0 sugar, 0 artificial ingredients. They are non-GMO certified and verified and are completely sweetened with natural stevia. Now, I know that my subscribers depend on this channel and on me to be brutally honest. There's a reason the motto for this channel is low carb, high snark. Watch any of the videos in the past and you will know I can be particularly honest. So it's important that you know that I felt strongly enough about this partnership to accept, because mainly I was a Zevia drinker long before I started a low carb channel on YouTube. So it's something that I felt very comfortable recommending, and I know that it is a quality product. So today Zevia is partnering with me to bring you a recipe that I am particularly fond of. When I do recipe research like this and looking for something to convert, I, of course, scour the internet, magazines, and cookbooks, but one of the most important places is my treasure trove of family recipes. And some of that comes from this book right here. This is my family recipe book. This was created when I was but a mere child. I mean, God forbid the house catch fire. This is the first thing I'm grabbing after I get my pets and my people and get out of the house. This is coming with me. This is over 100 pages of every single recipe from every family reunion and aunt and uncle and cousin and all of those recipes that I grew up with. It's all right here. So when I was researching for this recipe to find something to convert and make into a low carb recipe, I came across my great-grandmother's old-fashioned Southern tea cakes. And it's a very easy recipe: butter, sugar, eggs, flour, baking powder, milk, and vanilla. Now, if you aren't familiar with a Southern tea cake, that is, it's almost like a cookie, but it's not. And it's almost like a shortbread, but it's not. And it's almost like a biscuit, but it's not. It is some weird combination of all three of those: cookie, biscuit, shortbread. And it makes little tiny tea cakes that are moderately sweet, not overly sweet. They're meant to be eaten with, I guess hot tea at the time, but I don't think I could ever recount my Southern grandparents, or great-grandparents for that matter, ever drinking hot tea. But anyway, we're making Idley's old-fashioned tea cakes. Join me. All right, so let's get started on the conversion of this recipe. This one's actually going to be a fairly easy one. We can easily substitute the flour for almond flour and a little bit of oat fiber. And we only have to worry about creaming the butter and sugar. We're obviously not going to use sugar here. We're going to use some natural stevia. So let's get started on that. What we need to do is, first of all, a half cup of room temperature butter, okay? A whole stick of butter. And we're just going to put this in a mixer. This is going to be so much easier in a stand mixer if you have one. And just let it go to town for about 3 or 4 minutes. You're going to fluff this up. We want as much air as we can get into this butter. So in the butter goes. Lock this booger down and just let it go for 3 or 4 minutes. I'll meet you back here. Now, you definitely want to periodically knock the bowl down because it can't get into all the nooks and crannies, but you want to get all the butter as fluffy as we can get it. So knock it down, keep going. All right, so now we need to address the sugar in the recipe here. Normally you would cream the butter and the sugar, but we don't have that luxury here, obviously. So I also cut this recipe in half. My great-grandmother's recipe made 3 dozen of these cookies. If I make 3 dozen tea cakes, I'm gonna eat 3 dozen tea cakes. So we're cutting this thing in half. Granted, she also had 13 kids to feed. So I do not. So we're gonna cut this in half. So I need about a cup of sugar's worth of sweetness. So that's about a half a teaspoon of liquid stevia drops. So I'm going to add that in while the mixer is on low, and I'm going to count these drops so that you'll know how many you need. If you also use liquid stevia, you don't have to pull out a measuring spoon. So while this is on low, add the stevia. Ready? That was 28 drops. 28 drops of liquid stevia, or a half teaspoon if you'd rather do that. And now to that, because we need something to give this some substance and because it helps in baked goods, we are going to also add to this butter, while we're creaming it with the stevia, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of xanthan gum. So add that in while this is going slowly, and slowly add it in. Do not dump it all in one spot. It will make a mess. So slowly add this in. Okay, so we've got this butter pretty well fluffed up. It's about as good as it's going to get. So now we're going to add 2 eggs, one at a time. And I guess I'm paranoid, but I crack mine in a separate bowl first. So in case something happens, the whole shell doesn't go in or something stupid, you know, I just would prefer to do it this way. So with the mixer running on low, add these eggs one at a time, slowly. Let each one incorporate before you add the next one. Okay, so now it's time to incorporate the Zevia. And you're probably wondering, how in the devil are we going to put Zevia in a tea cake recipe? But I'm about to show you. Now, when I first started drinking Zevia years ago, it was this blue can right here, the cola. And this thing got me through some hard times on my first trip around the low-carb merry-go-round. When we would go to happy hour, all the folks from work, I would drink a bourbon and Diet Coke. And I started trying to wean myself off of artificial sweeteners, so I switched to Zevia. And I would buy a 6-pack of this and take it to the bar with us for happy hour. And the bartenders were glad enough and nice enough to make my bourbon and Diet Colas with Zevia Cola. So I appreciated that, and that's where I first, I guess, began my love affair with Zevia, and that has been, like I said, years before I started this channel, so I can hardly recommend it. No, we are not adding cola to tea cakes, but I did want to show you that. Since then, Zevia has obviously branched out into a lot of different flavors, and one of those is very popular, and it's the lemon lime twist. And it's a beautiful lemon lime flavor, and a lot of tea cakes are lemon flavored and have a lemon drizzle on top, so that's what we're going to do, a lemon lime drizzle. Now, it was great made with this, but I got something even better. You probably see this box up here. Zevia has come out with a brand of mixers. And this is a smaller can. Again, it's 0 sugar, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial colors. All the same great things we love about Zevia, but it's just much more flavorful because it's clearly meant to be mixed and diluted with alcohol for an alcoholic beverage. Or non-alcoholic if you like a mocktail. But this is the dry lemon lime Zevia mixer. And it has everything that I love about the lemon lime twist, just with so much more flavor. And because a tea cake or a cookie or shortbread doesn't require a lot of liquid, the liquid we do use, we want to be extremely flavorful. So today, we're making a dry lemon lime. Whoa! All right, we're back. So I'm going to add to the butter and eggs and everything we've mixed 3 tablespoons of this Zevia mixer. Now I have a little tablespoon measure here, and you're going to need to wait for the bubbles. This is very fizzy, which is going to help with some rise in these too, along with the baking powder. A little bit of effervescence helps baked goods rise. So we're going to put 3 tablespoons of this in to our eggs, get that moving. And then we're also going to add the vanilla extract, ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract to this as well. All right, so again, turn this on medium-high and let this go to town for about 2 to 3 minutes. We're trying to keep the air built into this creamed butter. And now we're going to start on our dry ingredients. We first need almond flour, and this needs to be sifted. And this is a little bit of sentimentality for me since I'm making my great-grandmother's tea cake recipe, or a modified version of it. I'm going to use my grandmother's flour sifter. So, all right, we're going to sift this, and this is 2 1/4 cups of almond flour. Do this in a separate bowl, and you're going to find out why in a minute. So to this, 2 1/4 cups of almond flour, we are going to add a ½ cup of oat fiber. This gives some good body and fluff to our final output. And boy, it is so light and airy, it's almost, look at the smoke it's making. To this also goes our baking powder. This is 1½ teaspoons of aluminum-free baking powder. Just hit this good with a whisk. Even though you've sifted it, you just want to make sure this is incorporated. So from here, we are going to put this mixer on medium, and we are just going to slowly add in all of our dry ingredients to make a batter. So here we go. Now, in the past, this recipe would have been, my great-grandmother would have rolled this out. You would take this dough out of here and you would flour a board and roll this out, she says, to about a ½ inch in thickness. Well, this isn't going to roll. It's just too much of a mess. You can roll it between two parchment pieces. Then from there, she would cut it with a biscuit cutter, round circles, and place those on them. The problem with this dough, because there's no gluten and it's not a traditional flour bread, is I've tried every way to Sunday to roll this out and then get the cut cookie off of the parchment in the perfect shape onto another piece of parchment. So I avoid all of that, and I've got a trick for you. Take the easiest way. All of these need to be the exact same size or they won't bake evenly. I use a 1 ounce or 2 tablespoon measuring scoop, portion scoop. I think it's called a number 30 measuring scoop. But whatever it is, everything needs to be the same size. So from here, just scoop out equal portions of your batter and place them on your parchment paper. And we're going to do, they need to be a fair amount of distance apart because we're going to flatten these to make them the size my great-grandmother said they needed to be, which was a ½ inch thick. I can never eyeball it. I don't know why I'm like just spatially unaware about things like that, but I always have to rearrange them after they're done. Well, Wesley, how are we going to get these a ½ inch thick? Well, you're going to do this. Cover this with another piece of parchment paper, right? And then use a second pan to mash these down. Now don't go all the way down. You don't want them pancake thin, but I was lucky enough, out of just sheer luck, that these two pans, when nestled together and spooned together, they are literally a ½ inch distance between them. So all I have to do after I've placed my parchment down is just mash this pan down until the sides meet. That's it. Carefully remove this. Set this aside. We're going to use it again, okay? On our next pan. But voila, ½ inch cookies, babies. So these are our tea cakes. These need to, so what I'm going to do is I do another pan of these, use this pan to flatten that pan, and then these have to chill. These need to be chilled in the fridge so that they don't spread out. All that butter, if you put them in a hot oven while they're room temperature, the butter and all is just going to spread and they'll get way too thin and crispy. We're looking for something that's a little bit of a cake, a little cakelet. That's why they're called tea cakes and not tea cookies. So put this in your fridge, both pans, for 15 minutes to chill. And then they go into a 350-degree oven for 15 minutes. Start checking them at 12. They will not brown on top. You are not looking for a browned top. It's supposed to be a lightly blonde top with a slightly browned bottom, ever so gently brown and crisp. But you are not looking for cookie. You are looking for a texture, like I said, between a biscuit and a shortbread and a cookie. So I'm going to chill these. I'm going to do another pan. I'm going to chill for 15 minutes, and then they're going in the oven, and I will see you right back here in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, so our tea cakes are out of the oven. They kept their rise, which I like. They didn't spread out too much. Now, you don't really want them to crack, so these may have stayed in just a little bit too long. But here's what we need to do. This needs to come off of this pan and this parchment paper as soon as possible and remove to a drying rack, a cooling rack. If you try to leave them on the parchment paper, they will steam and the bottoms will get soggy. So take these off and remove them to a cooling rack. That piece of parchment paper, remember, that we used for the top layer to smoosh everything down with, put it underneath. You're going to find out why in a minute. Okay, so while our tea cakes are cooling, we're going to make a very quick, very fast, easy lemon lime glaze just to gently drizzle over the top of these. You don't need much, but it adds just a nice little flavor element to it. So what we're going to do is this is an odd measurement. This is 1/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon of a powdered stevia confectioner's blend. So like confectioner sugar, but it's made out of stevia. If you can't find that, you can do some research. You can make your own confectioner stevia using a little bit of arrowroot and liquid stevia or powdered stevia. But the easiest thing is to try to find the stevia confectioners. So take 1/3 cup plus 1 tablespoon of that, and to it, we are going to add our dry lemon lime Zevia. And we need just a very small amount 2 tablespoons. Add that to your stevia confectioner's blend and whisk that good. We're just trying to create a drizzle like you would be featured on like a pound cake, you know, that kind of thing. So add that to here. All right, so the easiest way to work with this, let me show you. Easiest way to work with this is in a baggie, Ziploc bag or sandwich baggie. Take a mug and open up a small Ziploc bag and flip it inside out and wrap it around a coffee mug so that one of the corners is down in the bottom. So we've got a coffee mug and a Ziploc bag or a sandwich bag. One corner's down in there. And then carefully just add your drizzle, your glaze, to the bag. Then all you got to do is pull the bag out, flip it back inside out, and close it up, squeeze most of the air out. And now, here's where the fun part happens. Remember when I said to save that piece of parchment paper? This is why. So put this in front of you as a workplace, and you're going to just drizzle your glaze, and it's easier to pull all the cookies together. They've already cooled enough that the glaze isn't going to melt. I should have put a few more on the pan. We would have had all 20 fit on here. It makes 20 of them. So now this honestly, squeeze out some of the, so you get the tip. This honestly needs like a pinprick in the bottom, like a thumbtack, not much. If you use a pair of scissors, I'm talking about the tiniest, tiniest little corner is all you got to cut off, because this is runny enough, right, that you don't want a huge squirt of it, right? So, and you may not use all of this, but you'll see what we mean. So just literally the tiniest little hole. And then, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to swap. Test it over here. Yep, it's coming out. Now, up and down glaze. See what I'm doing? You don't want much. This is super sweet, and a tea cake may not be all that sweet, and then you may want to come across, and this just lets the stuff that falls off the edge land on the parchment. All right, that's all I'm doing. You don't really need that much. See, we didn't even use all of that. While this glaze is still wet, take a beautiful green lime and a microplane or a lemon zester, and let's zest the top of these boogers. So just keep turning your lime to get green zest. This just adds a bright freshness to it, and the color is fantastic. So a gentle rain of lime zest. So what we've got here, and let me just try to carefully bring this to the camera so you can see them. They are beautiful! Oh my gosh. And there's only about 1.5 net carbs in each one of these. The recipe makes 20 tea cakes and 1.5 net carbs for each one and about 116 calories per. I'll put the full nutritional profile over here. Now you need to let this glaze dry for about an hour, and it will harden up and become a glaze, and then you can stack the cookies and however you want to store them or present them. So let them sit here for about an hour out and continue to cool before you try to store them. But right now, I gotta taste one. So look at the beautiful, let's see, let's get a pretty one for camera. Okay. Whoa. The glaze is still a little moist. The lime zest, the lemon lime Zevia in the cookie and in the glaze really just adds a beautiful flavor note without any artificial weirdness. So, what do you think? Delicate. Super delicate. See, the bottom should be very lightly brown, but not much. And it's not overly sweet. This isn't meant to be a super sweet cookie. It's a light sweetness. And since doing low carb and keto, my sweet tooth has really calmed down a lot, and things that didn't seem really sweet in the past are really sweet now. So this is like the perfect holiday cookie, the perfect, even in the summer, this would be light enough for in the summer, but dunked in some hot tea, or especially in the morning with some beautiful cup of coffee. These are fantastic. So there you have it, a low-carb version of my great-grandmother Idalee's old-fashioned Deep South tea cakes. I hope I did her proud. As you know, these videos are a way for me to maintain my low-carb way of eating, and having to look in the end of this camera every week ensures that I stay honest. So I really appreciate that you've come along for the journey. If you're not a subscriber, I ask that you hit the subscribe button down below. This is basically a half-hour low-carb cooking show every week where we pit recipes against one another and sometimes create some of our own recipes. If you like the video, be sure to hit like. If you are already a subscriber, be sure to hit the bell button down below. That allows you to be notified as soon as I release a video. YouTube will let you know. So I want to say a very special thank you to Zevia Natural Sodas, and as always, a very special thank you to you. I couldn't do this without you. I'll see you next time.